We welcome back to our studio State Police Major James Barnes, who is the commander of Sydney-based Troop C, and you've now been the commander for several months. How's it going?
Very good. Still in the learning process of my new job. It's initially a bit overwhelming. I'm at that stage now where I've kind of seen what it encompasses, and I'm just trying to do the best I can and become competent at it.
Any big surprises since you took over in mid-December?
Yeah, not surprised, but more of a reality check. The information flow that comes to me now is much quicker, a lot more of it. I'm not as involved to the details that I was before, but making sure things are getting done through others, and so a lot of it comes through me. And my job is to make sure that that gets relayed to the right people and things are getting accomplished.
Tell our listeners a little bit about the New York State Division of State Police. Some people may be familiar with how the organization is set up. I think my impression is a lot of New Yorkers aren't clear exactly how it's organized. It's a unique setup, I think. I won't say there are no other law enforcement agencies in the country like it, but it is apart from, say, your local police or even your sheriff's office. The New York State Division of State Police has a unique mission, and it's also a very special structure, how it works from the top in Albany down to the individual troops. Explain how it's set up.
Well, we originated in 1917. Our first superintendent of state police was George F. Chandler. He was a physician by trade, was commissioned by the governor to come up with a rural police force throughout the state of New York. We encompass all of the counties outside of New York City. We do still have state police in New York City for investigative purposes, and recently there's been some media reports we're going to be augmenting our force down there. But the state is divided into 10 troops. Those are geographical locations. Troop C encompasses the 7 counties, Tioga, Tompkins, Cortland, Broome, Shenango, Delaware, and Otsego. We have I don't know the exact square miles, it's very large. Population base of about 500,000 people live in that area. We have approximately 17 facilities in the troop. We employ 355 members of the state police here. There are 207 troopers currently assigned to me. But we are spread pretty thin throughout New York State, but our mission is to assist those other agencies within our geographical areas, as well as we kind of fill in the gaps where there are no police services. A lot of the sheriff's offices throughout the county or throughout the state are responsible for jails. Some have road patrol, some do not. So in some areas of the state, we are it as far as policing goes.
It's also notable that for high-profile cases, even in some cases where the primary jurisdiction might, say, be a city police department like Binghamton, or maybe a village police department such as what we have in Endicott or Johnson City or in the town of Vestal, for some very high-profile cases, very often state police get called in to assist because the state police have specialized units with very important training, whether it's for crash reconstruction or in some cases where it might be a high-profile case where somebody's been injured or killed, or even a high-profile burglary or something where the local police at the initial response can see that there are some circumstances here that may require the specialized units that the state police have.
One of our mission priorities is to support the departments around the state for those services that they may not have within their departments, and we will come in and when asked and provide them with whatever we can. But we do have a lot of specialized units, as you mentioned. We have a forensic identification unit, which is based out of Sydney, and we service all 7 counties. I don't think there's probably been an agency that we haven't assisted within Troop C. There's somewhere around 40, 45 local agencies within our geographical area. We have computer forensic people that are highly trained, and that's an evolving field where if you don't stay abreast of the training, you become quickly behind the 8 ball, and what you learned 2 years ago is obsolete now. So that's a repetitive training cycle that they have. As you mentioned, crash reconstruction unit, we have highly trained individuals that go out and reconstruct the scene of an accident using highly sophisticated tools. We actually have a 3D mapping program that we can use to basically plot a picture of the scene itself using data points, thousands and thousands of data points, if not millions. So yeah, we do have quite a few selective services. We have a violent crime investigative team, which we refer to as our major crimes unit, and we often help other agencies with robberies, homicides, your more serious cases.
And certainly, say if there are instances where a series of crimes have been committed, say in a general area, say across the southern tier, or even outside the southern tier in other parts of upstate New York, sometimes the investigators with the state police, with BCI and other divisions can be helpful as far as connecting the dots. Say if there are people who may be targeting certain retail stores or other businesses or people in one part of the state, and then they move on to another part of the state, at some point patterns may emerge, and I'm sure the state police frequently can be in a position to assist with other investigators, whether it's local investigators or I'm sure in some cases federal investigators, put together some of the missing pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the structure of our agency, we have a uniform force, which is made up of uniformed troopers, sergeants, commissioned officers, and I'm part of that uniform force now. We also have a part of the state police, which is the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, which are investigators, senior investigators. They also have commissioned officers, and generally the BCI investigates the more serious crimes, felony grade type cases. And when you, as you mentioned, a series of crimes or serial arsons, things like that, we have assisted other agencies with connecting the dots. And whenever you have a pattern of crime like that, we generally work together as a team with local, federal, ourselves. And we have an investigative fusion center up in Albany called the NYSIC, which stands for New York State Intelligence Center. And they often are used to help us kind of connect those dots and look at similarities in crimes, possibly try to connect two together. You may have a small piece of evidence at one particular crime scene which may not help you identify anyone, but if you connect it with something that happened over here, you put the two of those together and you're able to kind of come together with a picture of what happened. So yeah, we do a lot of that.
Our guest is Major James Barnes, who is the commander of New York State Police Troop C, based in Sydney. We've already alluded to it in some of your comments about how technology is now a key component to the work, the mission of the New York State Police. And I know from talking with people in law enforcement just over the last several years, the new technology, new investigative devices and techniques that perhaps were not even imaginable just a short time ago now are being employed on a regular basis.
That's correct. We one of the biggest things that I try to push across to the folks is not working harder, but trying to work smarter about what we do. We refer to that as intelligence-led policing. And because things are now, everything's digitized, you're able to sort, you're able to collate and figure out where trends are occurring. That can be anywhere from where are the density of traffic accidents that we have in a particular area. Let's focus our enforcement efforts in those areas to try to reduce accidents and highway deaths. To the same with crime. Where are the burglaries occurring? Where are the drugs? Where does the drugs seem to be a big problem in a particular community? And we try to focus our efforts and be more efficient at what we do. So
you may be able to more properly deploy the existing personnel. As you said, you have only a limited number of troopers who are available at any given time, so I would guess by analyzing the recent crime trends and also just the way things play out, maybe even elsewhere, just what you might anticipate, you can plug all that stuff in and perhaps find ways to make sure that troopers are assigned to places where crime appears to be more likely to occur, or where issues regarding traffic or highway problems may be more likely to occur in the future.
That's correct. And with the technology, we have the ability to have real-time data that tells us what's going on in a short period of time, whereas maybe in the past it would take a month or so to digest what's happening, to figure out what we do next. Now it's very instantaneous. One of the things that I also ask is that we go out and engage the communities that we serve to gauge what their perceptions are about the problems that they're experiencing and try to address those. Again, that's a very important part of our mission is to provide professional police services to the communities that we serve. And the only way to do that is to communicate with them. Technology has enabled us a bridge where that they can use the internet to send us information. If they don't feel comfortable calling on the phone, we have email now. We have websites where they can post comments. But more importantly, as the troopers are out on patrol, I ask them to please stop in at these community events where, town hall meetings, convenience stores, stop in at the diner and talk to people and find out what's going on in their community and how we can be of assistance to them.
And I've observed that firsthand, seeing where troopers do stop in, as you say, convenience stores. Sometimes it's just routine, could be as short as a minute or two, just how are things going, anything of interest. But it does strike me that having those routine contacts with people who are out around the community builds relationships, and also probably ultimately builds more trust. So if some people are in a position to see something that just doesn't look right, that they'll be more likely to call the state police or another appropriate agency to say, this is something you might want to look into. It might be nothing, or it might be something.
That's correct, and I think you hit it on the head. Is they have to feel comfortable and trust that what they tell us is going to remain confidential, but also that it's going to be acted upon. It's not just hey, by the way, this is happening and nothing occurs with it. So I tell them, if somebody is telling you there's a problem there, even though it may not seem in the grand scheme of things like a big problem to you, it's a problem to them, and therefore we need to look into it and we need to take corrective action. One of my other priorities is to reach out to diverse groups that we serve in our communities and make them feel included and address their problems as well, or their issues. Traditionally we would respond when people call us, and now we're trying to be more proactive in finding out, by going to them and saying, what are the issues that you have and how can we help?
The guest is State Police Major James Barnes, the commander of Troop C, based in Sydney. 2017 will be a special year for the State Division of State Police.
That's correct. There's a lot of planning going on right now around the state. Each of the troops is going to have a public event. Troop C will have an open house in late September, early October of 2017, where we plan to have kind of a similar mini state fair display of, we have living displays of troopers dressed in period clothing, cars. We will have horses there, because for a long time we rode horses.
The Rough Riders.
The Rough Riders, that's correct. That's what we're known for around the state. And so each troop is a little unique, so every troop is trying to do something a little different with the planning of this. Obviously there's a lot that goes into this, so we're working on that right now. But in preparation of that, and also in conjunction with our ongoing building project that we have going on right now at Troop Headquarters, we've had to go through all of our old archives, and we've come up with thousands of old pictures, which are just amazing to look at. We're putting all those on discs. We may be able to put something out where people are able to get those if they wish. But also the trophies and all of the artifacts that have been stored in that building for years and years. Our first troop commander, Captain Fox, was an accomplished horse rider himself. They used to travel the country and do exhibitions, and they also had a shooting team, which were also nationally recognized. So just the tradition and the history that's in our troop alone is just amazing to me, and it's an honor to be a part of that. And so what we hope to do is encompass all that and put that out for display sometime again next fall. It'll be publicized as far as the events, what's going to happen, but every troop is going to, like I said, have something a little bit different. We've come up with challenge coins for each troop, which have their own distinct design. Ours is going to be a spotted horse, because that's what we're known for. There's a famous picture of Captain Fox on one of his horses. But again, it's an exciting event. A lot of planning is going to go into it, and we're looking forward to it.
And according to the internet, and if it's online, it must be true, the New York State Police was officially established April 11th, 1917. So you are very close to the official 100th birthday of the New York State Police.
That's correct. And each troop, I think there were originally 4 troops, 4 or 5, and the Troop C was formed in 1921. And initially that was bigger than it is now. It was 10 counties initially, and now we're down to 7. And at the time, Sydney was kind of the geographical center of the counties that we served, and now it's slightly to the east of the geographical center. But there's so much tradition there, and our building itself is older, built in the early 50s, and we're going through, like I said, a renovation project to try to bring us up to some of the more modern type facilities that you would need, like a forensic investigative area where it's better served for the work that we do now, including with the computers. There's a lot more computer storage space that we need, and those sort of things.
The state police also have new mobile command vehicles that have been put into service. I know command vehicles have now been deployed for different parts of the state. I understand Troop C is sharing one of the command vehicles with another troop.
That's correct. We're sharing it with our partners to the north in Troop D. It's stored at a facility up there, and we hope to use it quite frequently. We're going to be using it here at the Hall of Fame detail for the induction ceremony coming up in on July 24th, and we've actually had it out already at the Classic baseball game up there back in May, and it has a lot of capabilities that we did not have before. We're able to communicate with different agencies on different frequencies. We have the ability to do satellite uplinks, quite a bit of display capabilities there where we can have several different things up on TVs that we're able to see. It's got its own camera system that we're able to look out. It's like a periscope that can look out and see, gives you an idea of what's going on. We also have the ability to link up with our helicopter and able to get a bird's eye view of what's going on a particular area. So a lot of capabilities that we didn't have before. We're still working through those to learn how to use it. But it definitely is an enhancement to what we had before.
State Police also now has a new superintendent. The state Senate early this month approved the appointment of George Beach to be the new superintendent.
That's correct. I had the privilege of serving under him as he was head of the uniform force for the state. He was my immediate supervisor prior to his retirement in April, and we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and he's just getting into his new job, and I look forward to working for him.
I was looking at his background. He started as a firefighter in New Jersey before he wound up going to the State Police Academy a little over 3 decades ago.
Yeah, 33 years on the job, and just a ton of experience. He's been in the field. He knows what he's talking about, and like I said, having worked for him before, I'm excited about where we're going as an agency.
It seems these days, and I don't know if it's just our impression because of nonstop media coverage, because everything gets covered almost instantaneously with social media and traditional media, but it seems more than ever that police are endangered when they're doing their jobs. Their most routine tasks a lot of times seem to be in instances where they might be at highest risk. What's your perception as the commander of Troop C?
Well, it'll be 27 years this October that I've been on the job, and while even it was true back when I came on early in the 90s that any vehicle stop or any encounter that you have can turn volatile at any second, it just seems nowadays that can happen on a more frequent basis. One of my priorities as I started my position here was I wanted to make a point of addressing all of the members individually, actually in a group, but I mean personally. And there is nothing more important to me than their safety and each one of them going home at the end of their shift. So that is the first thing I tell them is everything you do, please do it with the most regard for safety, your personal safety. And we talk about, you can't help anybody if you don't get to the scene safely. It starts with your driving. It's very easy to outdrive the siren, and not everybody can see the red lights coming, so you have to take that into account. But again, we can't help anybody if we don't get there, but that seems to be one of the more dangerous aspects of an already inherently dangerous job is the high-speed driving that we do have to do. But again, I talk about the volatility of the job and how it can go sideways in a second, and they always have to be gauging that encounter to make sure that they are safe. If they need backup, to make sure they get it. We almost routinely send 2 troopers to any type of violent situation now. There's no such thing as just sending 1 trooper to a situation. We always try to make sure we have enough people there. But yeah, it just seems now that things are more volatile than they were in the past.
And it just strikes me that more than ever that troopers and other law enforcement officials, no matter what the situation is, they have to also rely on their experience and sometimes a gut feeling. A situation where you might not be able to actually put it in words, but you can have a sense that things are not quite what they appear to be, and be very perceptive. I would guess situational awareness becomes so important even for the most mundane situation, no matter where the troopers are.
We, as humans, evolved with a sense that you can almost tell when something is going to become dangerous. It's just hardwired into our brains. Police officers have an ability to see that quite clearly. And certainly people under the influence of alcohol or controlled substances can become 1 minute very calm and the next minute very violent. So again, it's part of our training that we look for, but also experience. The more time you have on the job and you see these things occur, you can almost predict when things are going to happen. We do have a lot of young troopers in our area that come here, they train, they stay here for a short period of time, and then they move on to, they're trying to get closer to home from where they're from. So we're constantly cycling through younger people that we have to make sure that they understand that these things can happen, and they have to be in touch with that.